Hi students, good evening again. Today we are starting a new topic, a new section, and even the new, you can say, the subject that is related to the cost accounting. We will start some of the basic concept of the cost accounting, that why we need the cost accounting, what are the main, you can say, the parts of the cost, or what are the different sections that we have to calculate, and what is the purpose of that one. And then again, the main purpose is what, that we have to prepare the cost of goods sold statement. Means the cost of goods sold statements we have already prepared. That was for the trading business. Business means what, that they are purchasing the goods and they are selling the goods. So we have prepared that cost of goods sold statement for the trading business. Today we will focus on the manufacturing business or the production business. What is manufacturing business or the production business? It means they are purchasing some raw material, they are processing it, and then they are selling the finished goods or semi-finished goods. So it means they are not just purchasing and selling the same thing. Means, for example, a shopkeeper is buying this marker and they are selling this marker. So it means that shopkeeper is not manufacturing, that shopkeeper is just trading. But the company, let's say here the dollar company is there. So what they are doing, they are manufacturing the marker, they are purchasing the plastic, the raw material, so many other things they are buying, and then they are manufacturing or producing these markers and they are selling. It means it is the production business. So let's come to the point. So the first thing that we have to understand or we have to consider is the concept of the material. Now, material is basically divided in two main parts, that is the direct material and the indirect material. Okay. First of all, to produce anything, what we need the basic raw material. Okay. The basic raw material, for example, if there's a factory or the workshop, they are producing the wooden chairs. So what they need, first of all, they need the wood. So that wood will be considered as the direct material, or simply it will be considered as the material. Then we will focus on the different types, like what is the direct material and what is the indirect material. But here only we have to consider the concept that what is the material. So material, the wood that is used in the manufacturing of that chair, the wooden chair, so that will be considered as what, as the material. For example, the plastic used in the production of this marker is what, that is the raw material. Okay, so we have to consider the concept of the raw material. For example, if the company is there and they are producing like a shirts. Now in the shirt or in the trouser, for example, they are producing cotton shirts or the cotton trousers. So the raw material is what, that is the cotton or any other fabric they are using for producing the shirts. So for example, some companies, they are like a shoe manufacturing companies there, they are using some rubber, they are using some artificial leather, or you can say the natural leather, or they may be using any other rubber, plastic, or any other thing like a small steel parts or the small steel sections or the buckles. So all these will be considered what, as the raw material. Now the raw material is divided between two main things or the two main sectors. So that is the direct material and the indirect material. So what is the difference between the direct material and the indirect material? So first thing is the visible. The second thing is the cost, and the third thing is the quantity. Whenever you look at the product, the first thing you notice what is most visible thing, obviously. Why? Because of its visibility. So that part is called as the direct material. Okay. The next thing that is important, the cost. It has a major chunk of the cost. Is it the direct material or it is the indirect material? If it has a very small part, for example, the manufacturing of the chair has a, let's say, cost of $100, but out of that, like a $50 or $40 is the cost of the wood, it means that is the major chunk of the cost. So it means that is what, that is the direct material. But there are some other materials, so we will discuss that one. So that are the indirect materials. The second thing is the cost, or what we say the value. The value, obviously sometime the product may be using that material, but its quantity is very less, but maybe its value is very high, so still it will be considered as what, as the direct material. So for example, if there is something they are producing and they are using the gold or they are using some diamonds, so the cost is high, but the quantity may be very less, but still we will call it as what, as the direct material, not the indirect material, because it has a less quantity. So if it is easily visible, so in the first look, what you notice, any material of any product, it means that is the direct material. The second thing, if the cost of that material is high, again that will be considered as what, as the direct material. And the third thing, the main quantity, the main volume of that product is comprised of that material, so that will be considered as the direct material. But obviously there are some materials which are also important for the production, but their cost is very less, or the quantity is very less, or they are not easily visible. For example, if we talk about the manufacturing of the wooden chair, they are using some glue, they are using some nails, or they are using some screws. Obviously that are important for the production, but the quantity is very less. The cost of the nail as compared to the cost of the wood is very less. Again, it is not easily visible. Some screws are there at the you can say the bottom, or it may be while joining, so they are using that one. So again, that is not easily visible, so it means that nails will be considered, or that screws will be considered as what, as the indirect material. Even they are using the glue while manufacturing the chairs, the table, or any other furniture, so they are using some glue, so that will be considered as what, as the indirect material. Again, for example, they are using some polish. Obviously it is visible, but its cost and its quantity as compared to the wood, it is very less, so that's why it will be called as what, as the indirect material. So we decide either the material is direct or indirect on basis of what, on the basis of the quantity, the value, and then the visibility. So the three important things while we have to decide either that material is a direct material or that material is the indirect material. So we are focusing on the three things. The first thing, the cost of that material. If the cost of that material as compared to the other material is high, so it means that is the direct material. Then the second thing, or even the first thing that we have to consider, that it is easily visible. If we look at this marker, the main thing what you notice, noticeability. So that is what, that is the plastic they are using. It means that plastic will be considered as what, as the direct material. Okay, if you look at the chair, the wooden chair, the first thing you look that you see which is visible, easily visible, that is the wood. So that will be, if it is a steel chair for example, so the steel amount is more, or its quantity is more, or its value is more as compared to the other parts, so it will be considered as the direct material. So this is very important concept, and throughout the cost accounting this concept will be used, the concept of the direct material. So we are focusing on that material part, the direct material part, and the indirect material part. For example, the manufacturing company which are producing the mobile phones, they are using main two things, the plastic they are using, and then the steel they are using, okay, or some of the glass they are using. So these are the main things which are easily visible. Their cost is more, again their value is more, and the quantity is more, so it means that it will be considered as the direct material. For example, if the car manufacturing company is there, so the main item they are using is the steel. So the steel is the main thing which is part of the manufacturing, so that will be considered as what, as the direct material. So for example, in the cotton in the shirt, a cotton shirt, the cotton is what is the main raw material, but there are some other materials are there, so that will be considered as the indirect material. So the first thing, I hope you have understood the concept of the direct material and the indirect material. The next thing that we have is the concept of the direct labor and the indirect labor. Now, to manufacture anything, obviously, if we have some material, if we have some wood, we have some steel, we have some screws are there, some plastic is there, some rubber is there. So if we put all these things in our workshop, in our factory, in our production house, so nothing will happen. There will no miracle happen. Now, what is required? We need some labor. Either it may be a skilled labor or it may be an unskilled labor, that the human part is also required. So we need the labor, we need the workers. So there is a small difference between the people who are working in the office and the people who are working in the manufacturing process, because the people who are working in the manufacturing process, they are directly or indirectly working with the machine, they are working on the production process, or they are helping, or at least they are doing something with the production process. But the people who are sitting in the offices, they are not part of the manufacturing process, they are not working in the factory, they are in the administration, they are in the marketing, they are in the HR, in the accounts. So those people will not be considered as the labor. So that is very important, that the companies, if there is a production business is there, or the production or the manufacturing work is going on, so they need the labor or they need the worker. So all the other people who are helping those process, for example, they are sitting in the admin office or marketing office or the HR or the account office, those will not be considered as the labor. Now, any human being or any person who is working in the factory will be considered as the labor. Now, again, just like a material, we have two main factors or the sectors of the labor. So that is the direct labor and the indirect labor. Now, one person is directly working on the machine. For example, they are taking the wood, they are cutting the wood, they are shaping the wood, they are just welding the steel part, and all these things they are doing. So it means that person is directly working on the production. So that person will be considered as the direct labor. So they are doing what? They are directly involved in production. What they are doing? They are directly involved in production. And they are doing what? They are just helping production process. Now, how they are helping the production process? For example, if the cleaner is there, the manufacturing of the chairs, the table, the furniture is going on, and the person is cleaning that area, it means that person is helping. For example, if the person is there, they are loading, unloading the wood or any other steel part or any other manufacturing thing, so it means that is helping. A person who is maintaining all the records over there, the storekeeper is there, or the person who is just transferring the goods from one place to another place, or even the person who is just looking after all the production process like a supervisor. So all these people are not directly producing something, they are not manufacturing something directly, but they are helping the manufacturing or production process. So those people or those workers will be considered as what? As the indirect labor. So we have a direct labor and indirect labor, just like a direct material and indirect material. So any person who is directly involved in the production process, so that is called as the direct labor. And any person who is involved in the production process, but they are just helping it, they are not just producing something, they are not working on the machines, but they are helping the production process, so that will be called as what? As the indirect labor. So this is the first concept that we have discussed in the first section, that is the concept of the direct labor and indirect labor, direct material and indirect material. In the next sections we will discuss these concepts in more detail. Thank you very much.